even in your
Yes.
district, ganyan.
Before Asis will answer, may I recognize Congressman Boy Cruz and Congressman Ako, and of course, Senior Deputy Speaker Congressman Dong Gonzales. Asis, can you answer that? Can we universalize the NIA scheme?
It's both NIA and Kadiwa program po. May convergence po ang NIA at saka yung Kadiwa natin program. No? Of course, putting 29 peso for everybody's plate would require tremendous resources on the part of government. And the fiscal space is limited for us. And so, we have to prioritize kung sino po yung tatanggap ng murang bigas na yon. Kaya po, naka-focus tayo dun sa vulnerable sector. I still recall that dati po may 25 peso rice. If the fiscal space is not limited, that would be ideal. But considering that will require probably 50 billion pesos or even more than that annually, medyo mahirap po siyang gawin sa ngayon. But for the vulnerable sector po, Mr. Chair, we intend to reach out to as many as possible vulnerable sector for that one. Thank you.
Thank you. I know that there. Are you okay?
No, Mr. Chair, can I
Yes,
add
please.
more? Maganda po yun, ano? At least, konting tulong coming, I think it's not so much of the amount being utilized in this particular program of the government. Pero kasi, I think what I heard about this scheme,
Dito?
sabi ng aming NIA, parang, di ba, you are giving like
Except
support to the farmers. Then in return, binibili nyo yung produkto nila. Eh, nagbibigay naman talaga tayo ng, support to the farmers. Na kung pwedeng dagdagan ito, napakalaking bagay po. Lalo po sa vulnerable sector. And one last, Mr. Chairman, is all about that. I think it was stated earlier by Yusek Asis Perez about this timing of planting season. Kasi po sa amin, kasi kami po sa Nueva Vizcaya, ang dami pong mga high value crops na kung minsan yung mga kamatis, hindi na ho pinipitas dahil piso per kilo ang pambili po. Kaya hindi na po pinipitas, which is laging lugi po yung ating mga vegetable producers. Kaya, nung nakita ko po, you stated, yung napapanahon ba na program ninyo na timing of planting season, dapat po talaga, ito ang gawin ng DA. Dahil lagi hong pagtatanungin ko sa ating mga vegetable producer, tumipak ka ba? Lugi, ma'am. Lagi na lang lugi. Kaya kung minsan hindi na sila nagtatanim. So what are we going to do with this? Tamang-tama, narinig ko, timing of planting season. Na kasi kung kunyari, yung presyo ng kamatis ngayon is like 90 pesos or 120. Aba, mamaya, lahat na ng kanyang kapitbahay. Lahat magtatanim na yan. O pagka namunga itong mga ito, wala na. Tama nga, yung supply and demand, di ba? Kaya sana po, ang DA yan din ang pagtuunan ng pansin para hindi ho masasayang yung mga investment naman ng ating mga farmers. Yun lang, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Asis?
With us also, Mr. Chair, is Undersecretary Caballeros. She is in charge of our high-value crops. I think she's the best person to be able to respond to that last question po, if the Chair will allow. Thank you.
Yes, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question, Honorable Quaresma. Yes, in terms of the high-value crops, because tomato falls under the platform of high-value crops, the Department of Agriculture is promoting the crop diversification strategy. Ito po ay to use in some areas yung optimize use of the land. And we look at the integration of other crops after rice. In the case of tomato, tama po yung nasabi ni Congresswoman Quaresma. We were monitoring a month ago, and oftentimes, ito po yung tinatapon madalas. When we check with the NVAT, Nueva Vizcaya Agricultural Terminal, there were two reasons. One is that the buyer did not show up, and that was a contracted purchase. So, tinapon nila dahil nabulok na rin because it has not been picked up for the past 2 days. That can be prevented if kasama na po ngayon yung konteksto nung integration po ng value addition, yung processing. Sinama po ito ng ating Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel para matugunan yung aspeto na hindi nagtutugma yung supply and demand. And kasama po ito doon sa
Are
pag-aaral.
we tomato deficient?
There are times that we are deficient, but there are times that we are oversupplying tomatoes.
Annually?
Onion.
No, annually. No.
Annually,
I'm talking
annually.
about
Yes, Mr.
tomato.
Chair. Yes, Mr. Chair. If we are to look on the industrial use, because for household consumption, we are meeting the requirement.
How much are we? What is the sufficiency rate?
The sufficiency rate for lowland vegetables, I have here in bulk po kasi, but I can disaggregate. The ending stock for the fourth quarter is around negative 63,202.
So we're importing.
We are importing, but not tomatoes for home consumption. We are importing for industrial use, Mr.
I mean
Chair.
to say for sardinas.
Sardinas, ito po yung sa spaghetti, ito po yung tomato sauce, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, it's not only tomatoes, hindi lang po kamatis. Kung minsan pati broccoli. Lahat yan, repolyo, lahat. Kasi ang daming nagtanim. Kaya nga, maganda ito, timing of public planting season. Kailangan you have to educate our farmers and vegetable producers, Mr. Chairman.
We have here two people I always relied on. Siegfried, what is the answer?
Can you please repeat the question?
The question is about tomatoes and broccoli and the seasonality and of both demand and supply.
I recall, Mr. Chair, that we used to process tomatoes, but of a certain variety. In fact, DA has a corporation up north. I'm not sure whether it's still operating.
Is it operating? It was closed down by Cory?
No, Mr. Chair, it was closed down in the previous
By GCG.
administration. GCG.
Okay. Lionel, you don't know Lionel. Lionel is the summa cum laude. He's a valedictorian of Ateneo de Manila in 2017. He has been advising me to gather my other staff. So there are 4 other people. These are 4 of them. Is the cobweb theorem still in effect for agriculture?
I'm not sure, sir.
Yeah,
I'll have to
because
check.
the good congresswoman says that if you plant corn, suddenly everybody plants, and therefore you go another cobweb. Basically, is there no counter measure against that?
I'm not so sure, sir. What I've seen, at least like parang sa literature, sir, recently on agri-econ,
Yes.
is that parang the choice of planting, a lot of it, aside from like what farmers have been used to, depends on the crops that the government supports. So kung saan po yung may support from
Narinig
government,
mo
sir.
ba yun, Boy? This
I-
is
I heard
this is the valedictorian of Ateneo de Manila in 2017 as summa cum laude in management engineering, double with economics. So the planting intentions are related to government support.
I heard it loud and clear.
Thank you. So therefore, I hope that science will guide you on what you are supporting also.
Yes, sir. That's why
Now,
we have a
let me
different
go to a
priority.
topic which I wanted to avoid. If only Carlos gave me the list in confidence. So let me go to documents that are available in public. Can you show? No, that's the one. Okay. Increased private sector participation in importation there was already in 2016 and 2017, contrary to public statements by the NFA of wanting to limit importation to government. The blue ones are really NFA and the red ones are in private. So 2 years before RTL, 77% of importation was already private. Next, by 2018, most beginning stocks for rice were actually commercial. By 2018, 89% were actually commercial, not NFA. Only 11% was by NFA. Next, but the price spiked in 2018, despite mainly private sector participation. But this was the very reason why we wanted to do RTL. So before declining sharply in 2019, when we finally put the RTL in place. So you can see that in the chart in terms of the domestic retail price of rice. Questions? Since Carlos does not give me his confidential list. Who in the private sector were given rice importation permits by the NFA in the period between 2016 and 2018? This is under subpoena under Duces Tecum. 2. If private sector participation before rice tariffication was already high before rice tariffication, why did prices decline only after the supposedly cornered import permit requirement was abolished? 3. What happened to the supposed 2 billion bribery issue in the NFA in 2018, where certain NFA officials were named by Senator Ontiveros and Senator Poe as being involved in the cornering of the MAV and import permits, namely Marlon Barillo, Marigold de Castro, Richie Carpio, Mercedes Yacapin, Rocky Valdez, Judy Carol Dansal, which was later named NFA administrator by the former president. Inaasan mo kasi ako eh. Kaya sarili ko na lang ang didepends. But after this, I will still demand that you give me that list in an executive session. There is no way that we will not confront this because it's very clear that the people are being deprived of the benefits of a very good policy of the government. So what happened to the chain charges when then presidential spokesperson said government was to file in September 2018? 5. What has the DA done under this administration to ensure that price manipulation of this scale is prevented from happening again? Therefore, may I request the committee secretariat for the following: letters to the DOJ and the Ombudsman requesting whether there are any cases filed on the supposed government officials named in the 2016-2018 rice price manipulation allegations, including those named in the Senate investigation. Jason Aquino, former NFA Administrator Judy Carol Sal, Marlon Barillo, Marigold De Castro, Richie Carpio, Mercedes Yacapi, and Roddy Valdez. 2. Letter to the DOJ requesting for information on whether any investigation was formally ordered to be initiated by the DOJ on the former NFA administrator. 3. Letter to the NFA if they are still existing. Yes, but they admit they have been so decimated by your laws. They virtually are doing nothing now. If you read the new RTL law, virtually lahat na pwedeng gawin ng NFA hindi na pinapagawa. Sayang ng institutional memory ng NFA, pero I'm okay. A list of all individuals and corporations given rice import permits from 2016 to 2018. 4. Letters to the Bureau of Customs requesting a list of all rice import arrivals from 2016 to 2018. So, I don't want to further invoke. I am invoking the subpoena powers of this committee, including those that are in the hands of Assistant Secretary Carlos Carag, because that's the only way to clear this matter. So, unless there are other comments or questions. Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Gusto ko lang tanungin ng custom.
May I recognize Congressman Plato? Thank you very much. Yes, Congressman Briones.
Kung kailan yung last ng ginagawang basis ng pagbabalyo ng ini-import na reference value. Ano ang yung pinaka-latest na reference value na ginagamit ng custom?
They are being invited.
Sir, per anong commodity po, Mr. Chair?
Yung reference value, di ba? Supposed to be, dapat transaction value ang
Ay,
yung
hindi naman po namin ginagamit yung reference value in substitute dun sa transaction value. Ginagamit lang po namin siya as risk management tool. So kapag meron po kaming tinatawag na EVRIS or Electronic Value Reference Information System, available po yan sa lahat ng aming examiners at appraisers. Pag mababa po doon yung, substantially mababa po doon yung value, usually po around mababa ng more than 30%, meron pong option ng aming examiner na questionin lang po yung value. No? Kumbaga, hihingi lang po ng additional documents proving na talagang yun ang transaction value. Otherwise, magkakaroon po ng valuation dispute at kinakailangan pong patunayan ng importer na talagang nabili niya sa mas mababang presyo yung produktong yun. Ito naman pong mga reference value namin, Mr. Chair, nagagaling po, usually pag agricultural products, we coordinate with the Department of Agriculture for latest valuation reference. Meron din po kaming subscription to price indexes available online. Like, for example, sa rice, may live rice po. Tapos, yung iba naman po, published values na internationally accepted na nakasubscribe po yung Bureau of Customs. Pero ang primary rule pa rin po namin is transaction value. Risk management tool lang po yung value reference system, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, anong hinihingi yung documents para masigurado nyo na ang ginagamit ng broker o ng importer ay yung talagang transaction value?
Usually po, Mr. Chair, ang hinihingi po ng aming examiners are contract of sale and then yung proof of payment po dun sa supplier, no? Either telegraphic transfers, kung meron pong kung covered po yan ng ibang mode of payment, yung proof po na yon. Yun po yung pinapasubmit namin. Including, of course, yung primary po doon yung sales contract po. Yun po yung vine-verify namin.
Pero yung ang pinakamagandang
para makita yung transaction value na may paper trail, dapat yung letter of credit. Normally, ang ginagamit ng mga broker at saka ng mga importer, telegraphic transfer kasi walang paper trail. So, paano ninyo ma-check kung talagang yun ang transaction value na ginagamit ng mga import? Kasi ang malaking problema natin, undervaluation. At yan minsan, during our last hearing, mismo nga ating chairman, Joey Salceda, ay tinanong yung 37 cents na presyo ng leg quarter ng chicken. So, paano natin masisigurado na matutulungan natin na hindi mawala ng revenue ang ating government at hindi naman mahirapan yung ating mga nasa livestock and poultry at even lahat ng nasa agri-sector.
Mr. Chair, ang problema ho kasi namin, ilan na rin lang ho yung gumagamit. Kung meron pong letter of credit, yun naman po yung ni-require namin. No? Ilan na rin lang ho kasi yung gumagamit based on transaction ng aming mga importers. Madalas so, direct payment na sila. So, telegraphic transfer po yung pinapakita sa aming proof of payment. At any rate, Mr. Chair, even if makapagpakita po sila kung talagang below the reference prices talaga, sinasubject pa rin po yan to post-clearance audit. No? Yung buong 3 years po ng importation nila, maaari naming balikan at tingnan. Bubuksan po namin yung mga books of account nila at titingnan namin kung yun talaga yung nakadeklara doon.
Dapat talaga masigurado natin kasi ito kasama ito doon sa Anti-Agricultural Economic Sabotage Act. Even yung mga government official or kung sino man, ito non-bailable, lifetime imprisonment. Kaya nga nagtataka ko, ni pangalan ng company at saka pangalan ng may-ari ng Pacific Sealand Foods Corporation, hindi nyo alam. Dapat nakakulong na yan eh. Dahil outright smuggling, walang SPSIC. Paano nangyari na hanggang ngayon, parang under investigation pa lang itong kaso ng Pacific Sealand Corporation na ito?
Mr. Chair, ano na po siya, case build-up na po siya. I identified na rin po namin yung responsible customs officer na nakalagay sa registration namin. At meron din pong nire-retrieve na rin po yung mga responsible officers at siguro ho, within the next few days or baka next week, ma-file na po itong kaso na to.
At saka yung fine dito,
Opo.
ikita ang ating government.
Aha.
5 times.
Yung
Kung 178 ito, 890 million ang fine dito.
Opo.
So, dapat ma-check natin. Mr. Chair,
Naka-FMN ba siya?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
What is his tariff rate? Mackerel,
Mackerel, that
5, 10?
alam namin, ang pagkakaalam ko po, 10%.
10.
10%.
So,
Mr. Chair, pwede ba natin matanong, Mr. Chair, si Doc Sigfrid Serrano about naman to sa MDM and OPALS, kung bakit ang government natin pumayag na ibaba yung MDM and OPALS tariff to 5%. Mas
may I
kabisado.
remind Congressman Brones that he is a consultant of our committee, Segfrid. So, but Segfrid, you can answer. He's part of us. But I relied on him since 1992.
Can you please repeat the question, Mr.
Yung
Chairman?
opals daw. Bakit?
Alin po?
Yung opals. Yung chicken parts.
Kung bakit naging 5%. Parang naging natin ng government yan sa
Tariffs.
mayroon kang sinasabi na ngayon liberalized na, wala nang quantitative restriction. So paliwanag lang sa
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Your Honors, you would recall that we were at that time negotiating for the extension of the rice QR. And the demandors in the negotiations, particularly the Americans, were demanding a reduction in the tariff of pork and poultry, which of course, upon consultation with our stakeholders in the sectors, were vehemently opposed to any such thing. So the compromise solution that was offered to the demandors was a
Recognition.
reduction in the tariff of
Policy.
a commodity or a tariff line that was not at the time very popular, which is mechanically separated or mechanically deboned meat. As it so happened, the consequence, Mr. Chairman, Your Honors, was that it became very cheap because of the tariff reductions that was part of the deal. And therefore, most of your siomai, most of your hot dogs, kaya hindi na firm yung hot dog ngayon was from mechanically separated meat. But we also had, we were
So-
hoping that...
So you protected inasal,
Ah.
in short.
But Your Honors, as the good congressman was saying, since we have already liberalized rice, wala na tayong QR, we are not any under obligations anymore to maintain the tariffs. And I was discussing with Congressman Briones that in order to stave off any motivation to use the low tariffs of mechanically separated meat or mechanically deboned meat as a cover for smuggling in or technical smuggling of pork and poultry, maybe the tariffs can be equalized or be brought back as before. But Mr. Chairman, let me also alert you to a potential danger that in my studies of this particular product that I encountered. One, mechanically separated meat, as the Honorable Garin has said, kinukudkud po yan sa yung bones sa slaughter, ano? So it is rich in calcium. And we were hoping, when I was at DA, we were hoping that the DOH would help us study the impacts of using too much of this raw material in the manufacture or processed goods like hot dogs and siomai, etc. Because we have seen articles in the US and Europe that the maximum that they allow was 20% MSM MDM because of the real danger of calcium toxicity to young infants and children. Dito po yata parang as much as 80% ang nagagamit. So that's just to flag that, Mr. Chairman, because nutrition, especially of children, is important to us, has already been emphasized by many of the presentations here. Thank you.
So anyway, it's a proposal, right? To equalize, just in case.
Yeah, Mr.
So
Chair.
you can fight
hopefully,
the TTRM.
hopefully, Mr. Chair, yung DTI, Department of Finance,
Pero easily, they can use 8800. In fact, for rice, you can use 8800. Surge.
Actually, you can't.
Yes, you cannot.
It's not covered. If you look at the text of the RTL, Mr. Chairman, there is language there of a special safeguard on rice.
What part
but-
is that? The new one?
The current version.
So what
It
is-
also says that it forbids, it totally liberalizes and deregulates rice. So our impression in looking at the text, Mr. Chairman, is if you
What
wish,
is the
you can,
effect of us is saying that by February, we will actually increase. So everybody now will speculate that there will be higher tariffs.
I think one of the important proposals,
Sikreto muna niya.
one of the important proposals, Mr. Chairman, so that this problem of toying with the applied rates is actually put rice under the ambit of 880. Because at 880, if you do some countervailing or some other action like anti-dumping, you can even do regular safeguards. And regular safeguards allow you to impose even a temporary QR.